because it's time. Work session October 5th, 2016. First thing we're going to need is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion? There's a motion or second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, turn it over to me. First off, and we talked about this, I talked to Jim. Charlie Irwin's visitation is tonight, and so that goes to 8. So if we can get out of here by 7, I would say that we probably need to do that, because I'd like to go, and I think some others would like to go too. So just
I'm trying to be done by 6:30, so doesn't seem like we should have any problem. But
what I put in the VDocs were basically 3 areas of revamping with our discipline. The alcohol suspension alternative, the first-time offender, and then also we did a tobacco suspension alternative as well. I think what we need to do is discuss that, tear it apart, and if that's what needs to be implemented, or if that's what you agree with, then that's what we need to go with and move forward. So let's talk first off about the alcohol suspension alternative proposal. What are the thoughts on that?
My immediate thought was, do we really want to do an out-of-school suspension? Because we talked about that and how really we want those kids in school, that maybe they could be at the alternative center the whole time, but being able to do their work. So that was kind of my...
That isn't for first offenders though, right? The first time offenders is down below.
Is that what you're referring to, Rebecca, for first-time offenders? Or, because I have down there on the second section, I added into alcohol, first-time offenders where they would be placed in behavior intervention at the alternative school for 10 days.
well, I read it like Rebecca did too, so.
What's the top then?
Okay, this would be someone like we have with our drug alternative suspension, in that, let's say that a kid comes in and is possibly intoxicated, let's say at a dance, and they admit to doing this. Then they would have the option of going through the alternative suspension program. Now that would be their first time. Their second time they would not. It'd be it would be a suspension, a full-blown suspension.
What is it?
And when we say first time, we mean first, you mean second time alcohol.
Yes, sorry.
Does that make sense?
First time alcohol,
First
not
time
first time
alcohol,
in trouble.
First offense, but been in trouble
Before.
tier 2 or more before.
Yes.
Oh, is that what
Is
you
that what you're
said?
saying?
No. Okay, let's just take that alcohol suspension alternative first off. That would be, because a lot of times what happens is kids do not admit to it. I'm not that way. Even when they're intoxicated, it happens.
And you don't get them blowing on anything, you don't prove anything.
Right. This would be a somewhat, I don't know if you want to call it an out, it's an alternative that kids would have, and even parents would have the opportunity to say, we will take the alternative suspension, we'll take the 3 days out of school, and we'll take the ISS. Plus, we're going to go to counseling. We're going to go through the SAP counseling for 8, I believe it's 8 times, correct? And
Is that once a week or once a month?
once a week.
Once a week.
Once a week, once a week.
On Wednesday, it's usually Wednesday.
But once they go through, they can only go through that one time. One time for alcohol. That's it. The next time it would be the full suspension.
And that's exactly like our drug
Yes.
SAT program.
So what is the second section here then?
Okay, the other section I just added in, those are basically 3 different areas, okay, if that makes sense. The second one down there under alcohol would be a first-time offender procedure, I guess. Whereas a person comes in and they're under the influence and they haven't had any disciplinary issues like we talked about, then they would have the option of going to 10 days of BI.
That'd be like the couple of the deaf kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And so how is this different than the first section? Other than I can read
I'm
it.
confused.
So I'm thinking you're saying what you might need to say is referring under the policy here, under first offense, you might need to say, students may had the alcohol suspension alternative, may take that alternative.
Well,
if they-
yeah, what I would do is this, I would put
Because that's where it
this
fits.
section down, it would fit under here. Yeah.
First offense, not first time offenders.
Yeah. And be
Well-
specific on what we mean by first time offense and first time discipline, or should be maybe what we should say.
See, first time offenders would be students' first disciplinary offense that you put above a level 2 infraction after those words,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's,
It would all have to be
Together.
cleaned up, yes.
okay.
So basically, a kid who's been in trouble before, but they haven't been in trouble for alcohol, they show up at a game drunk. And you don't necessarily have a way to prove it, you take home, whatever. And so they're gonna get 10 to 45 days
Well-
OSS unless they agree to the alternate.
Yes.
So their punishment's gonna be 10 to 45 days, but then you say, this is your first alcohol offense, so you can do this alternate suspension. If you get caught again
Yes.
for alcohol, then.
I think the thing about the alternative discipline is that it makes kids accountable for a longer period of time. I mean, you're gonna have to go through the counseling. And I should have put in there too, they would be subjected to the monthly tests.
Drug test.
Yeah.
The other thing, so like we can use like Jack Sutton as an example, because everybody knows about it. Showing up at the dance. He
could have
would
admitted.
be the first time offender. So
Yes.
he would say,
Because he had no
you are not
discipline
suspended
whatsoever.
out of school, but you have to go to alternative school for 10 days.
Right.
Now, my question is, they'll get their work from their teachers over at the alternative school, so they can
Mhm.
make up their work.
Mhm.
At the alternative school, we do not have the iPads, and a lot of the high school work is on the iPad, so are they gonna be able to keep their?
No, they have access points over there. They should be
Oh,
able
do
to
they?
utilize
Okay.
that.
We just make an exception.
They would still be able to do it. And if they
That's
did,
the
they
thing
have
is-
alternative ways of getting that work.
I would think you would need to allow them to use that
Mhm.
over there to do their work.
So a first-time offender, that's what happens. If a student's first disciplinary offense,
Yes,
they 10 days of behavior, that would be the punishment.
that would be it.
And that means alternative.
Yep.
school,
Yes.
city.
Yes.
They would be separated from your
That's
main
the
environment, the high
intervention.
school campus.
Yes.
They would go over there.
Then, for a student who has been in trouble before, regardless of what that trouble is, that's 10 to 45 days, or they could agree to go through this alcohol suspension alternative.
That's right.
Okay.
You can only do that once, though.
Only do that once.
One time.
And
Well,
if you
One
miss,
time.
I do
if
too.
you miss a
Let's
meeting,
do it.
if you miss a meeting, then you go back to being suspended. You have to go back.
Oh,
Yeah. If
you go
miss your
back to
meeting. Mhm.
10
I
forty.
like that.
So like if they're
Give it a
scheduled to
chance.
come in today for a meeting and they don't come in, we have gone ahead and talked to them and say, hey, listen, what happened, why were you gone? And they may give you some cock and bull story. You say, well, next time, then you're gonna be suspended for maximum time.
They get one more.
Unless it's a noted sick, got a doctor's
Yeah,
excuse.
it-
Like
it-
anybody
Any-
who had a
Yes.
real
Yes.
excuse, like
Yes.
legitimized with backup.
I've only
Exactly.
had one on the drug suspension, because I'm kind of over that, oversee that didn't come and then didn't come the second time, and we had to go back and reinstate the suspension.
What would be a level 1, I'm assuming above a level 2 infraction, a level 1, what does that consist of, like?
Tardies.
Yeah, tardies would be the big one.
What about cell phone? Is that level 1, level 2?
That is a level 1, I believe.
What, tardy is a
I
level,
can get you those, I'd have to go look them up.
tardy is a
I'm
level
curious
1,
about
or
it. So it wouldn't.
What's that, Rebecca? I'm
I'm
sorry.
curious about it.
Okay.
What, you know,
Can I-
what falls in those.
you don't have to get it right now.
Can I send that out to you in an
Yeah,
email?
that'd be great.
I'm like Rebecca, I'm just curious, because I
So
don't.
like level 2 would be fighting,
Yes.
Probably.
harassment of teacher,
Uh,
harassment of student.
It's where, like, if sometimes a level 1 will turn into a level 2, like if you maybe just get in a little bit of trouble and then they talk back in the office and mouth or something, then that can turn into a level 2, correct? It's where the-
You're right.
Does a level 1 include a warning, or is that even before a level 1? A warning would just be, because I know they document those,
They
right?
do document.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but they're not.
generally speaking, I think this sounds really good.
Well, I took that same suspension alternative, and Shannon brought this up, of applying it to tobacco use as well.
Okay.
Because if we don't, tobacco's gonna get more of a bit
It
more
is.
of a punishment than alcohol.
And I could
I agree.
more. What, I assume, I don't know, what goes on with tobacco these days?
What is it?
Me being 52 years old, I'm guessing,
Mostly dip.
Yeah, and even the vapor type
Yeah.
cigarettes.
E-moking.
Yeah. I'm serious, that's kind of a big deal.
It really is, and they kind of think they can just do that, but that's not smoking.
I'm gathering though that the
Or we didn't already can.
dip is probably a big deal.
But cigarettes are still a
Smoking
big-
in the bathroom?
Yes, not necessarily the bathroom, but like you're talking about in the parking lot, stuff like that.
They
Smoking
can't
in
wait
the
till they
parking
get
lot,
off.
bathroom. So some things haven't changed.
Or sometimes, you know, in the quad or walking in the cafeteria, that happens too.
Well, I don't know
We've
if Heather.
never
We
done
had
that.
one light up in the classroom.
I don't know if
What?
Heather remembers
That was a long
that.
time ago.
Remember last year at the junior high, there was a fire started by a cigarette in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the junior high.
My question is on the first offense, the 10 to 45 days out of school suspension, how are you
Well,
going to determine that?
let me, I need to go ahead and clarify that and change the wording on that so that there's not a, so we can differentiate between the first time offenders and the first offense, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what's going to justify a 10-day suspension or longer? Like,
Because what happens sometimes, Heather, is that they don't admit to being under the influence. Does that make sense? So if they're not going to admit to it, they're not going to own up to it, basically, it's going to be this. It's going to be
But they've had,
She's saying 10 days.
No,
versus
she's talking about
45.
rate.
they've had
No,
previous,
about the rate.
No,
But you
I'm
say
saying
judge,
The
you
10
always
to
says
45
10
is,
to 45.
is set years ago.
I know, but what is going to determine what you get? Like, how many days you get?
Not being, you don't want to
Some
be
are gonna get
subjective.
10 and somebody's
You don't wanna
gonna get
have somebody
25.
say, why
To
did
be-
I get
Yeah,
15
consistently,
or
It'll be 10
30?
days.
or-
consistently, it has always been for alcohol, 10 days.
So
Always.
why don't we make it 10 days instead of 10 to
We
45?
can.
I'm just saying that just leaves a lot of open.
I'm fine with
Have
that.
you ever given more than 10 days?
Never.
Well, if practically speaking, we never do, I mean, never, then I'm kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
It was probably that way because to leave room for, but if it never happened,
Well, let's just say they came in as an example and they were obviously under the influence, and then something else happened, there was a disruption or something like that, you may.
got in a fight.
Yeah, you may recommend additional 10 days or another 35 days, example.
Right.
But you.
But that then would throw it into another, the
You could do
offense
that
wouldn't
in-
be alcohol, it would be fighting.
Alcohol and.
It would be both, yeah.
You know, so you.
And you can do that.
Remember too, principals can only do 10 days. Anything more than 10 days has to come.
It'd have to come to a recommendation.
then I'm kind of with that. Just
Okay.
change it to what we really do.
Do we want to, not necessarily right now, but at some future date, talk about the out-of-school suspension for a non-violent offense
I-
versus in-school suspension, where we've got those kids taking those tests or doing that work and not lollygagging out in the, streets, and then getting our credit to our school for having the kids be in school and try to keep them on track, even if they've had a second offense of alcohol or whatever.
So what you're basically saying is, as opposed to suspension, let's figure out some alternative for them, right? Such as going to the alternative school.
I think that's more of a
Yes.
punishment. I think more of a punishment than giving them out of school suspension.
I do not like the idea of them just going to regular ISS, I'll be honest with you.
No,
I think
I
You're talking about
I don't
something-
disagree with you.
Are
They
you
need
talking
to
about
go
ISS
in.
here?
Yeah, I
You're
don't, I think we need
yeah.
more than just
Yeah.
regular
Yeah.
ISS.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't think
But at
that's
least,
enough.
and then we don't get into this, some teachers
Mhm.
let them take a test, some teachers don't, because that's not a good practice,
There's obviously some things that are gonna justify OSS.
And we gotta be able to get those kids out of our school, because that
Yes.
affects
That's
the kids that we
Yeah.
want.
Because we
that are
don't
trying
need
to
them
learn.
around to disrupt the rest of the
Yes,
people
I
trying to.
totally
get
agree
class
with
work
that.
Right.
I agree with you, Rebecca, but at some point,
okay, we didn't suspend them, they had alcohol on campus, you've broken the law, and then don't do it again.
Well, I don't think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, you said like the second time, right?
She's saying
No,
all.
I think you're talking about just other suspensions.
Not alcohol, sorry, necessarily.
Not necessarily, just, I'm saying when you don't have a violent, danger to the others, but you do break the law, or you do something that we do not condone. Our purpose still, though, is to educate these kids and to continue to educate the ones who haven't violated.
Well, let me give you kind of an example. The biggest suspension we have right now is that kids will come into ISS as an example and do something goofy and they end up being suspended for 3 to 5 days.
Because they want to be.
Well, maybe we ought to go ahead and say, first off,
Alternative school.
we're gonna send you over
there.
there. Now, I don't know, it may be a half-time program, but that may be better than nothing at all,
Do we
rather than being
do we
suspended.
have the room over there?
We probably have to hire like a sub to do those things.
I'm kind of like Rebecca, and it may not be right now, it's just the concept of the MSBA meeting we went to, and the discussion really was that OSS isn't that effective. Now, I think what you have to do is probably get out the list of things, like weapons. Okay,
They need to go.
that's got to be OSS. It kind of like
We're
you're
not
talking
going to put
about
you at the alternative center and pull out.
with your weapon.
Yeah.
We can only have weapons over there. But, and I think you could pretty easily kind of look through this list of things and say, okay, do we really want OSS to apply for X? And I think we're probably all going to be in pretty much agreement on what those are, because you're right. There are instances, we got to have them out here.
Gotta get
And they're in the way. And they're not going to learn, and they're keeping other people from learning.
I've been told by administrators before that the problem with ISS is they don't want to be there either. They just want to go home. They don't want to be at school.
But I think we're
And so
kind of
they'll cause
changing that.
disturbance
I think we're changing that by hiring, recently when we hired some 550 teachers to go over to Matthews, we're hiring teachers that are specializing in helping those kids.
With behavioral.
Yeah, just, and
On academics too,
just
just
the
be
academic side.
Mhm.
Oh, that's good to hear, because I think that ultimately is what we're trying to do.
I don't want to just say putting somebody in there, but I think that's kind of what maybe the practice was in years past. Brad Blackman, I always say this, Brad Blackman ran the best ISS classroom of anybody because he kept those kids engaged the entire time. I mean, it was tremendous. Those kids were constantly working, and he wasn't able to just sit there. He had to get up and he had to move around, and he had to do things with those kids. And that's what it's going to take in order to have an effective ISS classroom.
Basically, you're putting another step there to keep them from being suspended. And if they take that option, that's great. There's still gonna be those that end up at BI and they're not gonna do what they're supposed to do and they're gonna be out. But that just adds one more step and one more opportunity for those students to stay in school.
Because we've got to look at the diversity that we have here.
I agree.
The needs that we have here that might not apply in every other district.
Did you come up with this with our administrators?
We had talked to the secondary administrators about this, yes.
How are they with it?
That's kind of what I was thinking.
I think it,
Fine.
they're fine.
Well, once they
isn't
understood
gonna-
that we
It's a
weren't
bad
trying
one.
to overturn
Yeah.
every disciplinary policy on the books, right?
But this first time
You're
offender
right.
is not
Yeah.
frequent.
They came in very defensive, and I think, do you really understand what we're talking about?
No,
I didn't think. they
it's
did.
a matter of understanding this policy.
And-
This is good stuff.
And a first time offender doesn't happen very
Yeah.
No,
often.
you're talking
It's like
maybe
once
one,
every 2
2
One
years.
a year, yeah.
Maybe a year.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, if you averaged it over
But
10
it's
years.
gonna make a huge difference for that kid.
But again, just to defend them a little bit, they work really hard to keep the discipline and their first thought wasn't about the first time offenders, they're just thinking, oh, all discipline's just gonna
They're
change
thinking overall this.
overall. And that was that, like I said, I spoke that night, it just immediately got defensive because of that.
And me personally, that's not what I'm after at all on this, so.
I don't think any of you are. You want our schools to be
We like the discipline.
The strict discipline, yes.
You know.
We need it, we had to have it.
We have to have it. I agree.
There's
All right,
some places
so-
I'd like to see more of it.
What
I
I
got
can
general
do,
agreement, clean up and go with
clean
this
up,
on
and will
Tuesday?
need be is added to board policy JGR.
Yeah.
And then I send that to,
Yeah, what, we just happen to have, JGR will be put on consideration for this month, because it's dealing with bullying and harassment. The policy has been updated. We just got it, but we need to get it to you all to review, like, soon. So we can, I don't know if we'll have time to
So
get that on.
generally, if we're gonna do JGR, we would have to present it at the Tuesday meeting, vote the following meeting, is that right?
Yeah,
They have to have them,
May I suggest that on the tobacco, you know, the language in the tobacco uses kind of a more broad description of the use of those products on
that's right out
district
of
property,
policy.
district transportation, or any district activity. And I'd like to see that used, the language in, up at the top. Say, instead of on school grounds, bus, or school activity, it kind of broadens it. It's just like, we don't want somebody coming on.
So you want it more specific, like it is
No,
in
I like it
tobacco?
broader,
Oh, you like it
saying
broader.
on a district property, district
Okay.
transportation, or district activity.
Well, that's directly out of policy, so we'll need to.
Don't you think that would, you know, kind of broaden it a little? I mean, I don't want somebody
Yeah.
nitpicking it and saying, well, I went on the bus.
Mhm.
I was, you know, in mom's car on district property or.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying put it like it is in tobacco?
Yeah, I like it in
Oh, oh,
tobacco. I think it's
Consistent between the two.
consistent and it's
okay, yeah,
more broad.
I see what you're saying.
yeah.
Less loopholes? Less loopholes? I think it's good. Thanks for all your work on that.
Any other questions? Okay, why don't we go in?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Let's look at the proposal. I wanted to share with you, and I guess we can show this top secret information. This is something that I want to share with you all tonight, something that Scott had been working on for some time, and you kind of thumbed through that. Scott Fleming, I mean, that it kind of diagrams the outlay of the piece of property down here south of town and just some ideas. And that's kind of what he's looking at. Now, one thing that we have to take consideration is that safe room has to be in that far northwest corner of that property. It takes on more community members that way, which means then the square footage of it can be larger. Okay? If you start moving it farther away from that, then it's going to take on less people. So he figured that by having the safe room up in that northwest corner and then had the rest of the building spaced out. Now, that's just, you know, I'll say here, just a tentative drawing or rough draft, there you go, thank you, for us to kind of look at. Thought it was kind of interesting though.
It fits on
Is
that.
that all, I don't want to get too, is that all our property?
Yeah, you can see that, how it's
So
got
how it's kind
diagram.
of shaded? So that
It's
street would need to
triangular.
be built in.
What's that, Deco?
So that would need, I mean, the way. it's
Yeah.
got
Yes.
That would be on the school
But that's not
property.
there, right? Right.
No,
Okay.
no. Way it kind of looks is that middle pod there, that middle wing, would be like the main entrance. The main entrance would be on the south side of the building.
Mhm.
Which is kind of odd. But when you look at how it's laid out, and we talked about that
Yeah.
a little bit yesterday, I don't know if there's a better way, but it's kind of odd.
So you'd have a separate car drop-off, separate bus?
Well,
Which
those are
I guess
some
we can get
things,
into the details of it.
yeah, those are some things that will have to be discussed with the architect. But I just thought I wanted to share that with you, kind of what he was thinking and kind of go from there.
Plenty of room there, isn't there?
There is plenty of room.
Did he say how big a building this was?
He did not.
So, Three Rivers owns this property right here.
They own that
He
property
gave it to
south
Three
of there.
Rivers.
Mhm.
I
He
think-
gave it to Three Rivers.
Yeah.
not us.
This here or this?
Okay, you can see it better on this section right down in here is all Three Rivers.
The green,
The green or
is ours, right?
the green cars?
The green is ours, the green is ours, this south is Three Rivers.
We have lots of green
So
space.
what would we?
We gotta have-
Well, he was, you know, I don't know. He talked about playground on this side, which would be on the east side, and this would just be an open field for right now. So possibly it could be parking, could be playground out that way too.
Could be fields.
Good. I think he said you only had about 80 to 100 yards of field out in that area.
Oh,
Big.
So it
It's
wouldn't
hard
be,
to, yeah.
I know, I thought they.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like a big.
yeah, it looks huge, doesn't it? It looks like a really large area.
Well, or you could even expand the building where the playground is.
You
and
could
make
have part of
playground
it-
behind.
You could have part of it go to the east, you could have part of it go to the
I
south.
guess the takeaway is there's plenty of space there.
Yeah.
Build a building.
Yeah, he said he could make it work fairly easily. Okay, on the Strawman Proposal that we were going through, that Jim went through last month, I'll let you kind of look through that and tell me what you think, because this is something that we need to kind of go through tonight. This is information I feel like we need to present to our community in a handout form, such as handling this. And I'll let you review. And we can discuss.
I like it. I like it. It's not, there's no stone that's been set for, anything, and then these things are to be discussed, and then, the only thing that we can know if we get approval is at phase one, really. Because that's what the vote would be for. It wouldn't be for what's gonna happen in phase two. So conceptually, I do like it, knowing that later, if we get what we want at 17, that we may have to move things around or change with the times or whatever's going on with the other phases. But, because those aren't what we have to have solidified, but I like the concept of them.
I do too. I think it's not too boxed in. It's just thought. I mean, it's just an initial thought.
Starting place.
Yeah. Have we gotten the word out like we wanted to about this town hall meeting?
Well, I was supposed to have an interview today with Leona, and she was going to get it out in the paper, Sunday's paper. But she was in court today, or in Charleston, they were in a big court case over there, she couldn't get out, so she's going to be with me either tomorrow or the next day. But she'll be in the Sunday paper. I've got it on word of mouth, it's been on social media, it's been on the webpage.
She probably needs to reshare that on Facebook, so get a fresh post first,
Yeah.
because it's been a while since she's done that.
There's been people talking about it.
Have you
Yeah.
tweeted
I've
it?
heard people talk
I haven't,
about
but I
it, but
can.
in a vague sense, like they've heard a little something about it. And I thought we really wanted to pound this out to the
Yeah, so
public.
now we've got a week, that would be a good time to tweet it daily.
Mhm.
We seem to have a lot of takers, or a lot of, the Twitter seems to be,
Mm-hmm.
And,
Did
Twitter
we
and
want to
Facebook,
hit
I
the
think that's
paper
what it
though, like,
Well,
here's
with-
what we've got scheduled, so that people who are older or who don't do the
It'll be in the
technology-
newspaper.
It'll be in the
It'll be in the
Sunday. But we have to be careful
Yeah,
with
but we
spending,
wanted
we
to
can't
do
get
it.
an ad because it's spending.
Well,
Just,
I think if, the thing that went out on Facebook, about 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
that you sent me,
Yes.
you can spend money, but you can't advocate for it. It has to be
So you
purely informational.
And that's informational, and
And
we're
this
having a
is-
town hall meeting.
This is
about it.
purely informational. And another reason, right now, there's nothing to vote on. It hasn't been filed, it hasn't been approved by the board. There gets to be a point where you get into a gray area. And that's when, and again, I'm a hall monitor. Tom sent me this, I made him change some things, and then, so we gotta watch that. But you can spend you can run an ad, you can put in, having somebody at the school put it on the school's Facebook costs money. Not a lot of money, but that's how people are getting themselves in trouble. If you see, these ethics violations and, where they're advocating for something, and I think really, once you've got that proposal, once the board says we're doing this and you cross the Rubicon, then you gotta be really careful when you spend money.
So, that being the case, it seems like not only article, but ad would sure make sense in the paper.
I mean, I think you could do what you did, the tweet, or,
And just run that specific
run
thing in the
that,
paper?
town hall meeting, we're gonna be talking about these things, not quite, not as detailed as what you have here in front of you, but we're gonna be talking about these things and building needs. I think that's okay. I think if you say, come help the future of our community and throw your support behind a new building proposal, that's not, so.
And then I think we should be prepared to have a second town hall meeting and kind of put it on our radar, on our books, because I don't think there's been enough out there yet for what I wanted to have known to the community that we were having this talk. So I want to be prepared to have.
I don't think just one town hall meeting is gonna be enough. I agree. I think we're gonna have to have several.
I'm gonna say,
I think we're gonna have to have, whether it be one a month or one every 2 weeks, I think we're gonna have to
So
open
we've
it up.
got a segment scheduled for November 1st.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought we scheduled them,
So the other thing I think is, not only our sites and our schools share it, but you need to ask all the Facebook pages of each individual school to share it. Because some parents only follow Lee Hunter, they only follow the high school
That's true.
or alternative school, and they're not following us. So I think every school needs to share
That's a good
it.
point.
And they need to share it multiple times, so
But you
maybe.
have to think too, not everybody's on Facebook and Twitter.
Right.
Nope, they're
There's a
not.
big part, there's a lot of people,
That reads paper.
surprisingly, that read the paper.
My mom was-
And I think it should be in the Wednesday.
So it'd be too
I
late.
do too. See, I've
For
been
at
waiting
least
to
2
see
weeks.
this in the paper.
I think for at least 2 weeks it needs to be, it's too
I
late.
did too. I thought we were gonna do that.
Well,
2 to 3
guys,
weeks.
we're gonna be all right. We're gonna get people there, and if we don't get them all here this time, we've got another meeting.
Okay.
We've got another meeting. I think we're gonna have to
November
meet
1st, I have
again.
in my calendar.
I don't have anything down.
Do we have one
I
November
have second
1st?
town hall meeting in here.
Do you have it down on the calendar? Because I've been listening to all these meetings. I haven't gotten it down. Let's,
I
if
didn't
it-
have
I
it's
put it
fine
in
with
the
me,
first
but
time we
let's.
talked about it.
I don't have it
Maybe.
down, but I will.
Well, apparently I was very proactive.
I don't have
I
it
think
down.
we said that, and then I think
Yeah.
some people said, well, let's wait until this one
Yeah.
goes. I don't
Okay.
think it was set, but that
Apparently
was
I
the
just
date-
went and typed
That
away.
was the date that we did say though.
Okay.
So is that, are we saying
Well, let's
November
do it.
1st?
Can you pull it up on your?
See what's on your school calendar that day. The second would be a, work session.
Well, not the administrative calendar, I get the school calendar on here.
I can get my personal, but
I had the impression though from our last meeting that we couldn't do an ad in the paper. I mean, I really did.
What's that?
I had the impression from our last meeting that we could not do an ad in the paper.
that's what I was saying, that's what
I mean,
took from
that
it.
was the impression I had.
Well, and maybe,
And maybe it's because you worked on the wording and all that stuff.
yeah, the main thing is, and this is in the board policy and it's in the statute, you can't advocate. And it really does, now, will it make me nervous? Yes, it will, but I think you gotta do it, and I think, because anything is, I mean, if you have somebody on school time do something, there's a degree of money. I mean, you could, it's how far do you want to take it, because, these people are being paid.
So we tell her to spend a full day at work, at school, and at 6 o'clock go back on her own time.
That's right.
Yeah, do this
This is
on your
on
own
my
time.
own time.
All year long.
November 1st is clear. That's a good date.
So we'll get that ad, if they can get an ad in on Sunday, but at least with. the
We'll get it in.
article-
We'll get something in.
I mean, Leona should be on the front page.
And I think
She typically
then,
does it
on the next.
Mike Jensen knows about it. I talked, spoke with him.
Yeah.
Well, as the article says that you sent us, the newspaper needs to be
Be on
behind
it,
what we're
that's right.
doing.
I spoke with him, and he seemed excited about it.
He was excited at the last one too. And gave us a lot of advice. We're gonna be
different.
optimistic
This
this
is
time.
different. This is different. We listen.
I thought that was a really interesting article from
It
Milton.
was.
It was pretty good.
You know, the only problem that I see with this is that.
With what, the
with
phase?
With the phase.
Okay.
Phase 1, 2, 3, is you almost have to have phase 2 pass. Because you're going to have the north side of town's kids going out by Walmart to school. So if phase 2 fails, then you've got parents that are going to be traveling that long of a distance to take their kids to school.
You're absolutely right. And those are the types of things we need to hear from our community members on.
To be honest, I agree. My hope is the feedback we'll get is they'll say do them both at once.
For a small increase.
Yeah.
That's what I hope. I hope that's the feedback we get, is let's just do the 19 cents now, and we can do them all. But I don't think we're in a spot where we can go throw that out. But I actually agree with that. I think that's a good point. I see what you're saying.
I think increasing it 19 cents in this short of amount of time is going to be a really hard sell.
I do too.
You know,
Talk about on
if
phase 1.
yeah, if you're wanting that on the ballot by April. I mean, it may. I mean, that's just my opinion,
I
but
think that's why we're not doing it like that, though.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't think that's going to be.
What they're
That would
doing.
be the probably the optimal situation would be for that to happen.
It's gonna be inconvenient while it's being built, and hopefully phase 2 will pass, which, what that does is, and I don't know if you guys remember, but there was quite a bit of pushback. I mean, people want that school at Lee Hanna, they really want it there. But if you build at the same time the kids are in school there, you have to build on that back end of the lot. And there was some pushback for it being right up next to the housing.
And I had that conversation with a friend of mine who's like, well, he had gotten wind of this, and we were having breakfast, and he said, that's gonna be a pain to get your kids all the way over here. And I said, well, one, Sikeston's not that big, and it's not permanent. And two, I said, it's so much better that you have a empty lot to build on, because we were talking about housing kids probably in trailers, in lots of moving, and building, construction right outside the door.
It's not going to be a suitable environment to learn.
And
No, by any
this
means.
is just so much better. Even if it's inconvenient for a year, it's just better for the high guy.
Yeah. It is gonna be inconvenient for somebody, it really is.
I mean, I'm just saying you're banking on the fact that
2 passes. Phase 2
That-
passes.
you're going to get this community to pass phase 2, and I think a lot of it's going to have to do with, just a lot of things like the presidential election, who gets elected. I mean, there's a lot of different factors I think are going to come into play of, if that passes.
If you don't pass it though, you can move those kids back to Lehman or move the Matthews kids to the new building and tear the Matthews down.
And that's a good point, too.
You can always move those kids back.
Well,
Yeah.
it may not
It doesn't have to be a
be 2
long-term
years,
thing.
but we may have to push it back further to get, with no tax increase, and kind of get that debt paid back down, and do it with no tax increase again.
We can speculate all night.
Yeah.
I mean, the bottom line is we need some new freaking schools around
Yeah.
here. And
The
So
bottom
here-
line is
this is a
phase
good
1
start.
needs we need to.
Here's the other thing, though, that could
See
happen.
what happens and where
And
the-
like we talked about, is if we can get the safe space grant, that reduces the cost of phase 1,
Yes.
thereby essentially reducing the overall cost of phase 1 and 2 combined, thereby reducing the tax needed
That
to pass
increase.
phase 2. So it may get to the point where if we are lucky on our funding, that phase 2 is less significant than this, meaning.
11 cents or something.
So how much are we saving if we get the safe space grant?
almost $2 million.
Well, 1.5, because.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because the
Okay.
district
We got
would have to
It's
pay
1.9, we gotta pay
475,000.
25% of it. So we can get 1.4 from.
Do we need to send politicians and talkers?
We
Well,
do, we do.
Rebecca, I'm glad you said that.
We do.
It's good.
Because yes, we do. Once we start this process, and we've only so far got one project manager bid placed, and they're the ones that have done them all across the state, okay?
Is this a state or federal level?
State.
It's federal, but it's given to the state. The federal gives X amount of dollars to the state.
So we need
And
to
then
work on
basically
a
it's
state
first.
elected officials.
State.
Yeah, so if anybody knows the governor, give me a call.
Well, and do we need?
Seriously.
Well, and it's, do we even need to be more organized than that? Because I know that Heather, you and I had a conversation just kind of off the cuff, and we were talking about this, I think last time, and then you were around, Tom, that, and then I got to thinking about it more. I mean, don't we need our congressman to write the governor?
Yeah.
Don't we need both senators, whoever they may be, to write the governor? And in addition to, don't we need every important citizen in town to be on the governor, whoever that governor is?
Well,
And
they'll
do we need to
decide
start that
for
now?
the new one, right? Won't it decide
No.
before the new one?
He
No.
decides in January.
That's when the money will be dispersed, in January.
Before, when does the new governor take over? Like the end of January?
No, I think it's the beginning of the year.
Well, but we'll know who it is.
Well, we'll know who it is, we'll know who to call.
I'm just saying.
But
like,
I'm just- The more I think about it, I don't want to get under, I don't want to under politic ourselves.
Yeah.
It's when people get Court of Appeals positions and, we get hit up to write people letters, we need to get so-and-so on the bench. I think we need to be doing that. I think we
Give
need
a
to be-
copy of the invitations of the parties that were hosted in Sikeston for each candidate, if and when we find out who wins, and have the people that hosted the parties write letters to the candidate for which they hosted.
Ooh, good idea.
I think
that's
that's
a good
Good
idea.
idea.
first part to start with. I think too that there are just, I think regardless of political party, we need and I don't know all these people, but we need the Holly Raiders and the Wayne Wallingfords and the Doug Liveless to be on our side on this deal. And we probably need to
They
get
should
on
all
our side.
be on our side regardless of what political party they're.
They should.
behind.
They should.
Well, I saw Roy and Phil win. I'll get in touch with Roy. I'll walk with him Saturday.
Huh? Okay.
I really think though, given when inauguration is, we gotta make sure when that decision's being made, if it's before or after, the new or old.
I can find that out.
Because I think it changes.
I'll find out
things a little
tomorrow.
bit, You know,
Well, it certainly,
because we just need to make sure who's making that decision, or when.
So, are you, in this $12 million on phase one, where there's $4 million of ours and $8 of debt service,
Yeah.
the $1.9 million, I guess it's 1.425, and the grant's not in that? You're saying that would, our amount could reduce if we get the grant?
Yes.
I didn't run the math.
Yeah,
By 1.5, it's gonna reduce by 1.5, is that what you're saying?
1.425.
Yeah,
Would you-
1.2.
Okay.
and this might be a question for Lori, can we keep, or probably a question for Piper Joffrey, can we, let's say we get the grant, we still want to keep our 21 cent. We don't,
We need to reduce the reserves we spend.
Yeah.
Yes.
you reduce the
Yes.
reserves you
Yeah.
spend,
And
then apply them to
phase two.
Yes. And then that reduces what you gotta do.
Then increase what you got
We
to.
still want that $8 million, we still out of that 21 cents.
Right.
We don't want to
This
reduce.
is our current debt line.
Yeah.
You don't want to reduce
So
your
I
debt
think that
service.
you need to,
No.
I think you need to present both of those.
If we get it, if we don't, that's probably a good point.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
If we get it, if we don't. If we get it, then that means the phase two costs this.
Right.
And, yeah, I think that's a good
I
point.
mean, it's good to assume that you won't when you're presenting it, but I think it's good to
Yeah.
let people know we have a plan if we do get
I
it.
think what we don't want to convey, I'm probably talking more than I should, not politics,
There.
but is if we get it, we're gonna spend more money. You know, we're gonna build more school. in
We
phase
don't want
one.
to do that.
We don't want to.
I
do
agree
that.
with
You
that.
do not, I mean, that,
We want to say this is
That's saving.
what we think we can get for our bang for our buck, and if we get safe space money, then that reduces the amount that
then we're already on $1.5 million ahead for phase.
And that
That's
amount
right,
will stay
it should
in
be
reserve.
applied to phase two.
Yeah,
That's good.
which then reduces it.
Good.
I think that's all very good.
Which in turn would make phase two not be
So tax increase.
add
would be
19
lower.
cents.
What would be
It
interesting is what would that
15
mean though?
cents,
I
maybe
mean, I know it's hard
11,
to
I don't
project in 2 years, but if we do apply another 1.5 million in reserves to phase two, what do we have to raise the debt levy?
Yeah, that's what.
Does it
that's
have
what
to go to
we're talking-
19 cents or can it get to 14? I mean,
Right.
it'd be nice if we could have an
around that.
idea of
You know,
what
I
that
think-
would be.
Thing two, we need to, and I didn't put this in here because we don't know, but we still have 4 other NOIs on safe rooms out there
Oh, that's
that
right.
we could be selected again 2 years down the road. I don't know.
Well, and that,
You know, so that could be another point of discussion down the road, which could save us.
You could just say
We're saying
19
this
cents
is
would be
the
the
most, this is
The
the
most.
highest projected amount we
Exactly.
see.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could be reduced based upon a number of factors, including
Yes.
safe room funding that we may get current, you know, for this current build and for future builds.
And we're assuming probably a current level of interest rate too. Who knows what rates
Yeah.
are. I mean, if we don't get a good rate, I mean, I guess some geopolitical thing could cause rates to increase between now and April. But if they don't, I mean, if they go up, we're not gonna have it paid down to a certain, to this level in 2 years.
We
So-
can only say.
No, that's what, yeah, you just,
Yeah,
we
you know,
have to, we have these assumptions in there.
Yeah.
And,
Only what we know.
yeah.
I would say, we need to be sure that the people that are at this town hall meeting, they're not educators, they're not in this room. We need to make sure they understand what a safe room is, that that's gonna, you know,
That's a
where it's
good
gonna
point.
be.
That's a
and-
good point.
And be real specific, because a lot of times we just go, oh, safe room, they go, what? I mean, I know it, and they need to understand what we're meaning there. I think sometimes as educators, I know we do, we use our jargon that we all, and we think everybody should know what that means.
Even new school board members.
And-
There you go.
So
Well,
being
yeah.
sure that we
And we
make
need to
people understand what we're talking about.
make sure people understand that it's for the community.
Right,
It's
that's what
not
I'm
just
saying,
for
be real
schools.
specific.
I had that question to me
Community.
yesterday, and I go, I don't
It's a
know.
community safe
What's
room, open to the
Somebody
community
asked me
Be open to
yesterday
the
about the
community
safe room.
after
They
school
said,
hours.
can you,
in an emergency.
In
and I said, I don't know. I'll find out. And so, yeah, we can use it, so.
Okay.
And that's part of why you'd be getting the grant. Now, I'm sure there's a,
And that's why placement means you get more square footage, if it's more accessible.
More community people involved.
yeah.
That's a really
What other things need to be explained?
What other what?
Things need to be explained, besides the safe room
It's
or.
always nice to,
good. Well, I've kind of got that whole list of bullet points we talked about at the first meeting,
Okay.
kind of the.
But you know,
recognizing the
address
need-
questions before you get.
But those are things we want. We want them to ask
Yeah,
questions,
that's
do we
true.
not?
That's a good point. We would like to have questions,
We
sir.
want questions. We want people to open up and ask these things, so,
And then we
Maybe
say,
we don't-
that's a great question, I am going to. go."
right, and we
So-
will get back to you. And that brings me up to a point, Brian. You're talking about what we can and cannot do. Purely informational items. Can we not have some type of thread going back and forth on Facebook from the school side? Like, for example, you know, if they come in and they ask a question about the safe room, can we not answer that way? Using our, during district time?
I think you can answer. Okay, first of all, remember that the law didn't catch up to technology. It's always behind. So all this stuff is being ferreted out. I mean, I've read a stack of these things.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think it makes sense if somebody asks a legitimate question that you answer their question timely with.
Yeah, exactly.
with and accurately. But and now you can't, but I think what you can't do is call somebody and say, hey, ask this question so we can, you know, so we can get this issue out there. I think, you know, you answer the question, you answer it with information, and you answer it factually.
Yes.
You know, this is, you know, somebody may ask, well, people have asked me questions, what do you have to do to get the grant? What do you do after you get, what do you obligate yourself for? What, you know, what's involved with this nickel? I mean, they're gonna ask you questions like that, and they may ask legal questions, and those are questions that can be answered because they're factually based. What will this raise the, you know, somebody may ask, okay, what's the tax levy in surrounding districts? You know, that's factually based information. What you can't say is, as you can see, our tax rate is, our debt levy is lower than just about anywhere else's, and you know,
Right.
You know,
Right.
Well, depending on our feedback, once we get ready to, we're just gonna have to get a bond issue Facebook page
yes.
that can answer those questions with one person.
See, I kind
A
of thought
non-school
about after
employee.
our meeting is setting something up, you know, if they had additional questions, that I could go ahead, or one of our staff members could answer.
But a staff member working during working hours,
That staff member's me.
I understand that, but
After hours.
But they aren't on the question.
No,
On
but
a
I could,
targeted, focused issue, that's kind of where you,
yeah.
when you start, you know, designating a page and dedicating it to an issue,
Okay, so-
then you're probably getting.
so I guess what I'm hearing is don't do that.
I'm gonna,
So
I don't know, but it just sounds.
Are we talking about, see, I took it to mean there was going to be needs to be a bond issue Facebook page maintained by someone who's not a school employee, is what I
But
took.
see, I was looking more along the lines of a question and answer type thing on factual information coming from our district Facebook page.
And I think you can do both of those, as far as, you're talking about an FAQ,
Yeah, yeah.
here are the questions that we've gotten. I think you should do an FAQ.
Okay.
But I think as far as the Facebook page, and again, this is just my thought, would be more, I think, what Amy was suggesting, which was, it's a non-school person who's gonna be,
Okay, then what I'll do, I'll keep it very simple. I'll just have an FAQ and keep it like that. Based upon the questions that we receive.
We don't need to start farming it out. I think that would, people would say, well, you're already in, you've gotten somebody to have a Facebook page.
we've already hired
Don't want to do
somebody.
that yet.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Until we're ready to pull the plug.
And you don't want too much information. I mean, you want to be complete in your information, but you don't want hundreds of pages of
How
information.
about these are some of the things we're looking for answers for from our
Exactly,
community.
because we haven't done anything yet. Really, we haven't.
This is the first thing next week, so.
We want some answers.
Okay?
I think it's good. I like it.
Who's gonna, are you the point?
I will start off by introducing everything and welcoming everybody, just kind of tell a little bit about what's going on, and then I'm going to throw over to Jim to do the phase in, and then we'll go back to questions that they may have and see how that goes.
So one thing that we will need to be aware of, so we'll publish an agenda for this meeting that what we're discussing. If other issues come up, we won't, that are completely unrelated to this, we won't be able to address those issues. So we'll just have to say, it's a great question. Feel free to talk to Tom about it, but we as a board, since with sunshine laws, that's not on our agenda, and we're unable to respond to that at this time because we're not allowed to.
You
So.
can always blame your lawyer too. I mean, I'll be there, so that's,
Throw you under the bus.
yeah. And I don't think, I know I
No,
usually sit with the board and everything, I think this ought to be more of a town hall. I think I should be in the audience like everybody else, but I'll be there.
Well, we kind of talked about that too. What do y'all think? We're going to have a board meeting there, so everything's kind of be up front, but don't you think maybe the board needs to kind of sit in the crowd?
I think-
What are your thoughts?
I think if Jim presents, then we can be on the front row maybe and be ready to answer a question if we need to, but then we're part of the group listening. I think the appearance of that may be better.
What do y'all think?
Thoughts on that?
I'd rather sit out in the crowd. I'll sit in the
Yeah.
back. I'd rather let other people focus on what he's talking about and what we're presenting.
It's almost too
I don't want it to look formal.
intimidating, you know, and formal. We just want it to be.
I think it's less formal if
Conversation.
we're kind of sitting around out there.
And we want people to be encouraged to talk. We want them to
Yeah.
talk, ask these questions.
We have to,
If we sit around, maybe we'll hear some questions that maybe somebody's scared to ask. I mean,
yeah.
Correct.
maybe we could answer them.
So, in terms of our agenda that night, do we have like other business we're taking care of before the meeting
We'll have a
starts?
regular board meeting at 4:30.
Okay.
That will conclude, and then we'll come to this
This is at
at
6?
6:30, I'm sorry, 6:30.
So we may have dispersed.
That's
We
true. Yeah,
probably
if we-
will be done before 6:30.
Yeah, if we got done at
Then
5,
it's very natural, as opposed to us sitting up and
That's a good
then
idea.
all getting up and going, except for Jim, which looks staged in
Do we
a
have
way.
to
But
call
if
a
we're
meeting?
all just already done anyway, and
it's
then we just
probably that
sit
there's
around-
gonna be a break.
Yeah, I would bet.
But won't we have to call the meeting to order
We
and
will.
approve the agenda and that
You-
kind
you
of
will.
stuff? But we
So
can
we're
do
gonna
it
have-
from where we're sitting or.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you still have to comply with the sunshine law, whether you're.
So we could do that.
So our board meeting will be there.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
slipped on, okay, okay.
We'll have our board meeting in the high school cafeteria at
How are we gonna do
4:30.
that though?
We're
How
gonna
are we gonna
have to
do
sit
that?
together.
We don't have to be sitting together to vote on approving the agenda.
No,
Yeah, Jim can just,
we don't.
you can have an acclamation.
I'll
of
even
the
do it maybe
agenda.
really informal and say, to comply with sunshine laws and whatnot, this is actually a really an official school board meeting, and as such, we have to have an agenda. Therefore, I'd like to have a motion by one of our board members in the audience to approve the agenda.
That's what I'm saying, make it clear, somebody can make a motion.
Hopefully they not all left the building.
That's right.
Now, you people,
Well, we're there for us.
And I'll be
So
there
we'll-
to take minutes
we'll cut.
as they are, which is gonna be, these things were discussed.
That's perfect.
The actual board meeting itself should be relatively quick. I mean, we have some informational things, but other than that, I mean, there's not.
so we're gonna hand out something like this,
Mhm.
have it available.
Yep, this
Have
will
our
be,
agenda there.
this will be there, everything will be right there for everyone to see.
Are you gonna have a plot of the land, of like a visual or something we could put up to show?
That
where the
actually would
land
be
is?
helpful.
Yeah,
We can,
It would.
'Cause I don't know
Well,
if
you know what I could
it's
do? I could put it on the backside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
just take that
Just the,
and,
just the
Just the
layout,
plot, no
not the,
school. No school.
Yeah,
so
not
that
the
way where
building.
you see that where the land is and what the shape of it looks.
Yeah, but no school.
no school.
no.
Because I think a lot of people don't even have any idea that it.
That's the biggest question.
Yeah.
You go, where?
It'd be an interesting thing to have the size of the Lee Hunter site and the size of
We have that somewhere.
Matthew's site without this.
Well, I had that on the sheet, and then I took it off.
I was
So
gonna
you're-
say,
Just
we
to
saw
say,
that.
to show how,
You could put
what
it
the
on the
size
back.
of this land is that we've got, you know, to show the sizes of our current.
Where-
What if, let me just, what if I put square footage? I mean, would that kind of like down the bottom
Of the building or of the
No.
ground?
No, I'm talking about
No,
land.
of the land?
I do acres.
Yeah,
How many
For
acres?
acres.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do acres.
How
and
many,
then
how big is?
How big Lee Hunter is.
How many acres is that?
7.5?
Oh,
I think,
We just looked at it.
I think 7.5,
It's less.
7.8 maybe,
It's less.
7.8.
It's-
I think they're both less than that.
Lee Hunter, I mean Matthews.
Matthews is like 4.5
Oh,
or
wow,
5.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they're both less.
Yeah, so I think that'd be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Y'all
have
see
it
the same?
in my office if you need. If you can't find it, I know right where it is.
Have y'all looked at these old?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
I was too close to dinosaurs. Terry.
Pretty interesting.
If you ever need anything out of the office, it's in the red folder. It's got, yeah, this thing's got everything. Let's see. Yeah, Lee Hunter's 7.8 and Matthews 3.5. Kindergarten's 10, Southeast is 12, alternative schools 10.
So both replacement sites are smaller by, Matthews especially than that site.
They're saying Matthews is 3.5 acres?
That seems a
Yeah.
lot bigger than that.
It does.
That's
It's 3.5 acres.
That's not right.
There's no way. I agree.
It's twice that. There's no way that's right. I mean, think about, it. My house sits on an acre. There's no way that that's 3.5. I mean, there's just no way.
I would have thought it would have been smaller but close to redundant.
Me too. I bet it's 7 acres.
I would have guessed 5 or 6.
I mean,
Maybe
there's,
it's dyslexic, it's 5.3.
maybe.
Somebody.
Might check it. 'Cause it-
I agree it's small, but I don't think it's quite that. Small.
It is pretty small, then.
3.5 acres, not much.
I mean,
Okay, anything else? Motion to adjourn? Motion is second, any discussion, seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
You're ready? Ready to write if I need to.
Now look, you have to make it like that.
Jim, do you want us to help you if they start throwing tomatoes and fruit?
Yes.
Group wise,
Group wise.
I think it would be helpful,
Thank you.
You know, like at the baseball game last night, that guy threw
doing
a
the beer can.
beer out the player.
That was
That's
crazy.
crazy. I hate that.
I'm kind of thinking it would be nice if